Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on a very dreary, overcast day. One of those days where there's just going to be rain, and you're not going to know when it's going to happen and when it's not. It's not one of those clear-cut rain days. Instead, it's that rain is just going to be around, hanging around in doorways. So you go out with your little bean who hates the rain, and you pass a doorway, and the rain says, "Hey, bub." That sort of thing, where it's not predictable. It'd come down in buckets, 1/2 hour span, and then be gray for the next 90 minutes, but not raining. The perfect kind of day to spend mostly indoors, curled up and reading. And despite all the videos that I make in any given day, I do spend most of the day like that. I make a lot of videos in a day, but still, the bean and I are mostly not going out today until this gigantic blob of a storm works its way off. In which case, after which, I think we'll probably have days and days of clear, very temperate weather until the next round of rain. But the mail still comes through. I got, for instance, I have a few packages in a big box. I think I know what the big box is. But we have, in periodicals, for instance, we have the National Review, with a Rorschach blot with a face inside it on the cover. I haven't looked at this other than the table of contents. This is by Michael Brennan Doherty, and it's 4 more years. What a second Trump term could bring. I am amazed that I'm still seeing writing like this in the American press. It has to be an editorial decision. It can't be that, what's his name again? Michael Brendan Doherty is so stupid that he thinks that we're talking about 4 more years. Trump has said that is not true. Trump's people, his red hats, have said that is not true. They are not running for president. Trump is not interested in 4 more years. The pieces like this that show up in mainstream journalism, whether it's the National Review or the Wall Street Journal or whatever, saying, well, what's Trump's next and final term going to be like? I don't get it. I just plain don't get it anymore. I understand the rampant plague of both sidesism and whataboutism and intentional stupidity and intentional naivete. What could this mean? I understand that that's become a fad in the last 9 years, and that people the press just naturally assumes that fad now. They don't even think about it. But this figure does not want. Why on earth would you think that this figure is going to leave office in 4 years? So that's a norm that he'll respect. It's going to infuriate me, and it's not going to be the only thing. For instance, one of the articles in here, let's see here. It's by Jean Twenge. Yes, there we go. Ending the Tyranny of Smartphones. About 7 years ago, 8 years ago, Jean Twenge wrote an article in Newsweek, I think it was, or something like that. She wrote an article called iGen, identifying a generation of kids who are growing up on their iPhones and saying that the world is ending, that is the ultimate end of everything. And then she turned that article into a book. I actually reviewed it. If I remember, I will try to leave a link to my review. I reviewed it on the other side of the world. I was gentle with the book. I ended up being a lot more gentle than it deserved. My piece was a lot more gentle than the original piece that I wrote in. My editor said, could we calm this down a little? And I said, he was a really nice guy, so I said, okay, fine. We'll calm it down a little. I'd like my points to come through, but I don't have to be quite so angry. Her book, iGen, was a Chicken Little screed that had almost no understanding of its own subject. And when one of the things in that review that I wrote 8 years ago or whatever that got taken out, I made a prediction in my piece 8 years ago. In my original version, when I do my collected reviews, it will be in there. I made a prediction in my original version of the piece that anybody who writes an article like this warning people is eventually going to write wanting to ban these things. That is the only trajectory this ever happens. You start off by saying, I've just noticed a kind of literary trend in a few books that I've just been reading. And then you go on to, I've noticed this is definitely a literary trend, and I want to warn people about it. It has negatives as well as positives. You are inevitably going to end up saying, I want these books burned. And maybe even I want their authors burned. And sure enough, the description of ending the tyranny of smartphones is, we need government to help protect kids from the harms of social media, by Jean Twenge. Could have seen that coming, did see that coming 8 years ago. So this will have lots of irritation. It'll have lots of irritation. Then we have the new New Yorker. This has a Peter Sevi cover. I have no idea how old this artist is now, but once upon a time, he was a genuine super hottie. And there's always something congruent, almost like the alignment of the stars, when a genuine super hottie is also genuinely talented. It almost never happens. But this is all the birds of spring, just lovely. And there is a visual gag in this cover that I'm not going to spoil for you. I want you to study it and figure out what it is. But there's a hint in the title. The title of the piece is Undercover. And maybe you can figure out what is going on in this cover. It's all the birds of spring. But something is happening on this cover. It's very, very clever. This artist covers are always wonderful. And we have a whole bunch of articles here. I automatically check to see if anybody is in here that I hate, and also if anybody's in here that I love. No one's in here that I hate, and there are a lot of people in here that I love. But I wanted to read a letter that got under my skin. If you could permit a little venting here. This is from a writer in Oakland, California. As the owner of an independent bookshop, I very much related to the events described in Paige Williams' article about retail theft in Los Angeles. Though my business has not been the target of mass shoplifting, presumably because of what I sell. Many of my neighbors have fallen prey to large groups of people who come in and steal not only merchandise, but also cash from the registers. The police either get to the scene too late or do not show up at all. And there's another paragraph to this letter, and I confess, even after all this time, knowing how insane the 21st century is, I expected what the second paragraph would be like, and of course it wasn't at all. It continues the lunacy of the time. The second paragraph is this. This new wave of crime points to socioeconomic failings in our society, but it should be dealt with by using appropriate measures rather than with an increased police presence that would only further agitate local communities. Why are the prices of food and other goods so high? How can we prevent people from resorting to crime in order to survive? Williams touches on these systemic issues, but I would have liked to see them explored further. Do you think? I'm sure the author does. But can it be possible that the author of this letter thinks that people are stealing 50-inch plasma screen TVs to survive? We're not talking about Jean Valjean here. When is California going to get that through its thick, potted, clouded head? We're not talking about Jean Valjean here. You've got the situation completely wrong, writer in Oakland, California. You mentioned the problem in passing. The problem is that line where you say the police either show up too late or not at all. If the populace knows that you have a storefront full of stuff that it can fence for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars, and the populace also knows that the police will either show up too late or not at all, they will rob you every day. They will come in huge crowds. What are you going to do about it? I have had nightmare reports about the state of California, people encamping by the hundreds and sharing drug needles on public land, where people in California cities can't enjoy their own parks anymore. I've heard reports like that ad nauseum from people from California, from Oakland, in 2 cases from Oakland itself. You are not siding with the authoritarians who are, say it with me now, literally worse than Hitler. If you want there to be no crime in your neighborhood, you are not. That does not make you a Nazi. If you want there to be no crime in your neighborhood, well, I hate to put it to you this way. Of course, they're not shoplifting me because they don't read books. I hate to put it to you here, a writer from Oakland, but the only thing that's going to stop crime is crime enforcement. It's unless you think you're suddenly in the end times where people are going to achieve a moral consciousness on their own, certainly for the 18,000 years of human existence before you opened your little boutique-y shop of books, the thing that stopped crime was crime enforcement. Not waiting for people for food prices to lower. But anyway, I'm sure that both these periodicals are going to annoy the crap out of me, but I kind of like that. So anyway, let's move on to the mail. We have 2 packages and a box. So we'll deal with the packages first. I think I know what these will be. Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. Okay. This is a hardcover copy of something that we've already seen on this channel. This is by Harry Friedman, and this is his book, Shylocks Venice. The remarkable history of Venice's Jews and their ghetto, the Jewish ghetto in Venice. Always up for a new book on Venice, on the history of Venice. This comes out. This is out already. This is late getting to me. This is the thrilling story of the Jews in Venice and the truth behind one of Shakespeare's most famous characters, which of course be Shylock from The Merchant of Venice. Have any of you seen The Merchant of Venice on stage? I wonder how many of you have seen Shakespeare live. It's worth doing, although all the Shakespeare plays are now available as complete audios. You can get free audio anywhere online and also on YouTube. And also YouTube, I'm sure, has filmed versions of all of Shakespeare. And probably you get many, many different choices. I wonder what, I'll check and see what choices are out there to watch all of The Merchant of Venice, just without going to the theater. But I strongly recommend the theater experience for Shakespeare. Millions of visitors flood to Venice every year. Is that a pun, Seymour? Is that it? Yet many are unaware of its history, one of the dramatic expansion and cultural flourishing, but also of rapid decline. And essential to any history of Venice during its glory days is the story of its Jewish community. Venice gave the world the word ghetto. Astonishingly, the ghetto prison turned out to be a remarkable place as the city of Venice itself. Prison? Okay, let's move on. With sound scholarship and a narrator's skill, Harry Friedman tells the story of Venice's Jews. From the founding of the ghetto in 1516 to the capture of Venice by Napoleon in 1798, Friedman describes the remarkable cultural renaissance that took place in the Venice ghetto. Gates and walls notwithstanding, for the first time in European history, Jews and Christians mingled intellectually, learned from each other, shared ideas, and entered modernity together. Oh, that's well put. Entered modernity together. Oh, that's well done. That is well done. When it came to culture, the ghetto walls were porous. Yes, absolutely. It's why I raised my eyebrows at the word prison. No history of Venice and its Jews can ignore the story of Shakespeare's Shylock. Sure they can. They're, in fact, advised to. The cultural and political revival in Venice, in the Venice ghetto, plays no part in the story of this fictional character. Who, we wonder, was Shylock? Would the people of Venice have recognized him, and what did Shakespeare really think of him? Shakespeare's ambivalent anti-Semitism reflects attitudes to Jews in Elizabethan England. Do you think that, those of you who've read Shakespeare, do you think his anti-Semitism is ambivalent? Oh, what I wouldn't give. I mean, it's Thursday right now. What I wouldn't give to be able to magically snap my fingers and have 10 of you here for Friday. A regular Friday. Where what I consider a regular Friday. Where we get in wine and calzones, Frida screams at you all and bites your fingers, and then we settle down and talk about these sorts of things. Oh my God. I want to know how many of you have seen Shakespeare on the stage. I want to know how many of you, if you've read Shakespeare, consider his anti-Semitism to be ambivalent. And a million other things I want to know. I also want to glom over your tech and maybe steal it. Anyway. But as Friedman demonstrates, Shakespeare's myth is wholly ignorant of the literary, cultural, and interfaith revival that Shylock would have experienced. And who is the author here? He is the author of 8 best-selling books on Jewish life, culture, and history. His publications include Leonard Cohen, The Mystical Roots of Genius, Britain's Jews, and the Talmud, a biography, which I believe I've read. I don't think I've read the others, but I think I've read the Talmud one. He lives in London and writes weekly articles on Jewish history at harryfriedman.substack.com. Okay, so this is out already. So obviously this goes on the list for tonight for a reread. Great. All right, so I'll put the pub sheet aside. New book on Venice. Turning out to be a pretty good year for Histories of Venice. Then we'll deal with this big cardboard thing here. Before we get to the box, I have my theories about the box, but let's see what we have here first. Okay, do you have a date for me? May. This comes out in mid-May. Okay, I did not request this, but this is from W.W. Norton, and W.W. Norton is the foremost of all American publishers where they're perfectly happy to send me something I have not read, that I have not requested, because I love them. I love their choosing process. This is by Glenn Lowry, and it is Late Admissions, Confessions of a Black Conservative. Don't know this at all. It comes with a huge amount of blurbs. Good Lord. A gigantic amount of blurbs. But let's see what the book is. Economist Glenn Lowry, I may be saying that wrong. He may say Lowry. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this figure. Is one of the most prominent public intellectuals of our time. I'm not familiar with this guy. I guess I thought I knew all the prominent public figure intellectuals. He's often radically opposed to the political mainstream and delights in upending what's expected of a black public figure. What is expected of a black public figure? We're expecting something different from a black public intellectual than a white public intellectual? But more so than the arguments themselves on affirmative action, institutional racism, Trumpism, his public life has been characterized by fearlessness and a willingness to recalibrate strongly held and forcefully argued opinions. God, I love the way Norton pub sheets read. I swear. In addition to the books that they pick, I love the people that work there. It's just they take books seriously. This book is the author's shockingly frank memoir, reflecting on his remarkable personal odyssey, including drug addiction, hospitalizations, and infidelity, along with his changing positions on identity, race, and belief. Gotta love an adult who's strong enough to change his opinion. Quote, I am going to tell you things about myself that no one would want anybody to think was true of them, he writes. And yet, they are true. I'm going to tell you that I have lied because I need you to believe me. I'm going to tell you that I have deceived those closest to me because I need you to trust me. I'm going to tell you that I have abandoned people who needed me because I need you to stick with me. I must tell it in this memoir because if I don't tell it at all, nothing I say will be heard. Okay, well, I don't know this figure, but that is brilliant prose. Can it be sustained through a whole memoir? I don't know. But, let's see, let's go on. As an economic theorist, David Murphy must know who this guy is, if he's an economic theorist. Lowry has published widely and lectured throughout the world on his research. He's also among America's leading critics writing on racial inequality. Grew up on the south side of Chicago, earned a PhD at MIT's economics program, and became the first black tenured professor of economics at Harvard at the age of 33. Good Lord. Okay. He has been, at turns, a young father, a drug addict, an adulterer, a psychiatric patient, a born-again Christian, a lapsed born-again Christian, a black Reaganite who has swung from the right to the left and back again. In this book, he examines what it means to chart a sense of self over the course of a tempestuous but well-considered life. Certainly sounds that way, although I don't know how you swing back to the current version of American conservatism. I don't know how you go back to that. This was, needless to say, a topic that came up often when David Murphy was visiting. I've had this conversation with other people as well, including one person that you do see in the public sphere and that you have listened to on network TV. Of what do you do? If you are a conservative, what do you do with the modern conservative movement in America? You can't embrace it. You're adrift, completely adrift. How many thousands and thousands of lifelong conservatives are looking at the 2024 election and thinking, well, I've got a choice between voting for a Democrat or voting for a lunatic who says he wants to tear up the Constitution and be a dictator. Well, you present me with a choice like that, what am I supposed to do? How can I have ideological loyalty when the other guy is a lunatic? So I don't know. I'm more and more fascinated by this. Quote, why write a memoir? Here we're hearing from the author again. Why write a memoir? I've lived a unique life, singular in ways both good and bad. There are a lot of things I went through that I put myself through that I needed to think about. In some sense, I needed to explain everything, not only to readers who I felt would be interested, but also to myself, which I firmly believe is one of the greatest wellsprings of truly great memoirs. Is you're not writing for the audience, you're writing for yourself. If you're a born writer, then there are certain things you'll only make sense of if you write them out, and certain ways of making sense of things that you'll only do if you write it. All this sounds just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Shylocks Venice is already out, so it needs a reread. This thing doesn't come out until, when did we say? Mid-May. But I want to read this tonight. I think mid-May is close enough, isn't it? Right? It's a free country. So I want to read this tonight. Late admissions. How incredible. Okay. And maybe look up this guy, see if there are clips on YouTube. And Shylocks Venice, about the Jewish ghetto in Venice. So those are our two books, and then we have a box. And I think I know what this box is. It looks like it's sent from one of you. Now, those of you who are new to this channel will not know maybe that there is a rule here. There are actually 3 rules here. And there's a lot of debate as to what order they come in. One rule, of course, is Steve is always right. But I get a lot of Weisenheimer emails and Voxer messages from a lot of you joking and pointing out and poking the bear that I'm not always right. And another rule is send me your tech. if you have one of those, for instance, one of those newer Kindle Paperwhites that are slightly bigger. I don't have one of those. I don't know what it's like to read on that form factor. If you have one of those and you don't use it, well, then box it up and send it to me. But another rule, probably rule number 1 on this channel, is don't send me books. It's going to feel natural. I'm surrounded by books. I live, eat, and breathe books. I love them. You might think, well, I found a book. I bet you're going to like it. Or I have a book and it needs a good home and I think you're a good home. That's a natural feeling, but I know what I want and what I don't want. And the chances of you sending me something, especially without, if you reach out to me ahead of time and say, here's a photograph of what I want to send you. Do you want this? And I squeal, then you can send it to me. But there's almost no chance of you sending me something blind that I'm going to want. And keep in mind, I know that a lot of people don't understand what gift giving is like. But once you send somebody a gift, you don't have any control over it anymore. It's theirs now. And if you send me something, a book, no matter with the best of intentions, if you send me a book in the mail that you didn't clear with me ahead of time, and I don't want it, I'm instantly going to get rid of it. I'm not going to keep it because you sent it to me. There's not any sentimentality like that. I'd be up to my ham hocks in books if I didn't observe that rule. However, one of you just recently emailed me and did send pictures, not of books, but of old comic books. I think you were inspired by, the other day I went to the Brattle Bookshop and I found a bunch of old Tarzan comic books. It was a great find. Those issues have been great to go through. I haven't looked at them in 50 years, so that was wonderful. But I think one of you was inspired by that. You had a stack of comics. The description was, they're old, they're in pretty good shape, they don't smell musty, and they don't have a home here. Their original owner is not around anymore. I don't want them. No one here wants them. You seem like you might want them. Can I box them up and send them to you? Now, I am working hard against accumulating ephemera. Comics would certainly count as ephemera. I'm working hard against that lately because the Brattle has recently come into a dragon horde of ephemera, and I don't want to accumulate it. I don't want to do that. But I said yes. This is a limited thing. I said yes, and I bet that's what this is. So we'll go through these. This isn't Wednesday, but we'll go through these comics and see what they have. Because I saw the stack, and I saw the 2 that were on top, but I did not see any of the others. So let's see what we have here. All right. Let's get all this out of the way. The person has double packed this. Very conscientious packing job here. That's very nice. This is happening on camera. These are not comics. I had given up on this thing. OMG. I can't believe this is happening on camera. This is not comics. This is tech. Long overdue tech. I had given up on this. Completely given up on it. And here it is. Right in front of me. Oh man. This is here, let me see if I can hold it up for you here. I don't want to hurt it since it's been so long on the road. This is an iPad. You sent me a 12.9-inch iPad. This is an M1 iPad. This is the generation of new 12.9-inch iPads. These larger size. Here's a normal size iPad. This is much bigger. One of you sent me one of these. These are the ones that have the M1 processing chip, so they're incredibly fast. And this has a huge amount of storage, just triple the amount that's on this thing. I'm always butting against my storage limit on this thing. I'm at the limit right now. So if I want to add anything to this device, I'd have to delete something. This has a huge amount of storage, more than I will ever be able to fill. And it's the 12.9-inch factor, which I've never had. I have played around a little with it because when Frida and I used to go up to Vermont, the Richardson family has a 12.9-inch iPad. And I fell in love with it to the extent that they started needing to take security precautions to make sure that I did not accidentally boost that iPad and take it with me. It started to become excessively guarded. But I fell in love with it because of the extra real estate size, and wondered what it would be like to have one. But they kept their iPad, so the thought went right out of my mind. I am still very curious to know, especially since this is incalculably a better piece of technology than anything I own by light years. Light years. This is the latest edition of the iPad OS, which is an operating system that I've been using on this thing that I really like. It has its limitations, but a lot of those limitations can be worked around, and with this newer device, those workarounds will be even more. There'll be even more of them. This will be even more of a work device. Wow, so I finally have. Well, thank you so much. The sender. I will email the sender because we'd given up if this was ever going to reach me. I finally have a 12.9-inch iPad to play around with. And the person sent it with this Logitech combo. So you've got the case here that you pop the iPad into this case. And the case has an adjustable stand that has every position in the world. It's not just 2 or 3 positions like with the 11-inch iPad has just 2 or 3 positions. And it also has the pogo pins there so that you can attach a keyboard, a cloth keyboard here. It's not very strong. I'm noticing this. It's not very strong. That magnet barely works at all. This keyboard has a trackpad. It is a fully functional computer keyboard. And one of the neat things about this, I don't know how well it will work since this magnet seems to be really weak. But one of the neat things about it is that this hinge has this flex to it, so that when you attach this, let's see, let's be absolutely sure that this. Oh, this is a third-party keyboard. That's the problem here. You've got these pogo pins. There are 5 of them, or 6 of them there, but the pin for this is a Logitech. It's a third-party keyboard. It's only got 3 pins there. That accounts for the weakness here. But one of the neat things about this, I have one of these keyboards for my my Kindle Pro Max, my 11-inch Kindle Fire. A really good device, really strong device. And it also has one of these Logitech keyboard cases. And you fold it around like this. This is not holding at all. Sorry, that's a little bit of an inconvenience here. You fold it around here, and then it's out of the way. But I've never been comfortable because your fingers are still touching the keyboard. It's deactivated when it folds all the way around to the back of the device, but your fingers are still touching it, and that's really weird. It's a really weird feeling I've never acclimated to. But this thing has enough of a hinge here so that when you attach this to the device like this, it works as a keyboard. But if you pull it off and attach it the other way, it wraps around to the back of the device. And so you've got the keyboard right there. The problem with the 11-inch Kindle is that, okay, wrapping the keyboard around was really awkward, so I'm still holding the keys. So then the obvious option, if you have that reservation, is take the keyboard off. But then where's the keyboard? Then it's never around when I want it. Then it's not nearby when I want it. Whereas this wraps around. So the keyboard is always with the device and is part of the cover. Now, this is not my ideal cover for this thing. See, it works as a cover here. Wow, the 12-inch iPad. Oh my God, I'm going to do so much playing with this thing. Oh my God. I have 2 writing assignments. I have 2 deadline pieces that are due more or less today. I mean, they're due by the end of the week. So, end of business tomorrow. And I am going to indulge myself in the next hour with a side of Steve that I talk about all the time on this channel, but it's you have to see it to really believe it. A couple of people, David Murphy's one of them, Mark Richardson would be another one, but you have to be in the room and see the sheer amount of finished work that I can do at speed if I want to. It's kind of freakish. I admit, it's kind of freakish. And I don't usually indulge in it. Who would? If they don't have to, who would? But I'm going to. In the next hour, I'm going to do enough work for 3 people for a whole week so that I can clear time to play with this thing. But this is a great cover keyboard combo, but my favorite is the folio keyboard that I have for this iPad, the 11-inch iPad, because here also you don't have any keys. You'll notice this cover does not cover the back of the iPad. It does not cover the edges. It just magnetically attaches to the side. And it is a folded keyboard. So you open it like that, okay, and then you've got a back there that you're not touching any keys or anything like that, and you can use this as a tablet. But if you unfold it a little bit further, you get a keyboard that you can then, you've only got one space there, one bar where the tablet can go. And you've got this keyboard here. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's cloth. There are no gaps between those keys. This is just cloth. And I love it. I know I shouldn't. I know the tech bros don't like it, but I love the feeling of typing on that material. And they make one of those keyboards for this device, for this size, that has a trackpad. That one doesn't have a trackpad. The smaller one doesn't. I may indulge. I will try this keyboard first and see what it's like, but I may indulge in a bigger keyboard for this. Oh my god. Oh my god. So dare I see if, yeah, this thing is, wow. Okay. When I originally thought that this was coming to me a month ago, I researched it on YouTube, of course, and there was no mention at all of a very weak attaching magnet. So maybe this is just a bad one. A lot of them weren't talking about this keyboard. They were talking about the magic keyboard that comes with this device. But does this have any power? Let's check and see. Who? My favorite symbol. The symbol that gives my life meaning. I am an Apple fanboy. And I've never had this device. I've never had this form factor for an iPad. Oh my. Oh goodness. You have to scroll through all the countries where this thing could be. All the ones where this thing could be. To get to the United States of America. Western Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Uzbekistan, the United Kingdom, U.S. outlying islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Wait, where is the United States? Okay, well, I'm not gonna sink into this now. Otherwise, I will be ignoring you when this video is going on long enough. So, all right, that's our mail for today. Two very interesting nonfiction titles, two winners, absolutely, and a 12-inch iPad for me to explore, for me to figure out. So I will wrap this up for now, and I will go make a new best friend. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.